Hi, I'm Claudia Krogmeyer, a PhD student at Purdue University, and today I will present to you our paper titled Eye Fixations and Electrodermal Activity During Low-Budget Virtual Reality Embodiment. Virtual reality research investigating embodiment, which is the sense of having and perceiving a virtual body as one's own body, often involves the use of a mirror within the virtual environment. Another important factor in eliciting a sense of embodiment is the appearance of the self-avatar, the virtual body that one receives in VR. Considering that consumers may not have access to expensive software and technologies necessary for the creation of personalized avatars, we investigated self-avatar body types which were not similar in appearance, but were instead readily available to consumers. We also wanted to replicate the kind of consumer-oriented VR embodiment which is available to users outside a lab, so we used Vive trackers, which are simple to set up and less expensive than entire motion capture systems. Additionally, we were interested in exploring potential interaction effects between body and mirror factors. On this slide, you can see an example of some of our conditions. So on the top, we have the mirror condition, in which participants had a mirror and saw their avatar, while on the bottom row you can see the painting which replaces the mirror. This is the no mirror condition. And you can also see here the three different avatars we used. From left to right, this is human, mannequin, and zombie. Participants were able to control the avatar by moving their arms and legs in real life. Many previous studies in VR embodiment have examined parameters of virtual mirror presentation for eliciting embodiment. Placing a virtual mirror in front of the user within the environment is thought to elicit a sense of embodiment as well as increase a user's sense of agency. Studies have explored variations in the amount of time needed to display this mirror, as well as the particular placement of the mirror within the user's personal space. It has also been shown that the appearance of self-avatar bodies or body parts may influence embodiment. While it is known that personalized, self-similar avatars can increase feelings of body ownership, obtaining such self-similar avatars is not yet possible for many consumers, as the necessary equipment for the development of these avatars are specialized and expensive. In addition to self-reported data, past VR experiments have captured more objective data by using electrodermal activity, which can be indicative of high levels of arousal or stress. Studies have also investigated eye gaze behavior, such as eye fixations, which can be indicative of not only attention, but anxiety, engagement, as well as social functioning. However, it appears less research has captured eye fixations in order to understand embodiment. Based on previous embodiment research and research from our previous experiments, we defined three primary research questions. Number 1, the self-avatar body type will be more influential than the presence of a mirror for eliciting body ownership. 2, increased sense of embodiment will be consistent with increased arousal as well as decreased eye gaze towards the self-avatar. And lastly, females will look significantly more often and longer at their self-avatars than males. Our study consisted of 72 participants. Because we had 6 conditions, there were 12 participants in each condition. We worked with both undergraduate and graduate students, so we had an age range of 18 to 32 years old, and we had more males than females with 41 males and 31 females. Our experiment was a 3x2 design. Participants were placed in either the mirror or no mirror group, and they had either the human, mannequin, or zombie self-avatar. And you can see here the participant avatar was matched to the gender that the participant specified on the demographic survey. We collected participants' eye fixations and electrodermal activity in addition to self-reported variables. We captured 3 measurements concerning eye fixation data. These were fixation length, which refers to the total duration time for each fixation object, fixation count, which was the number of different instances of fixations on the specified fixation object, and time to fixation. We recorded fixation data from both the mirror object and the self-avatar body. For the no mirror dimension, we collected fixation data from the painting, which stood in place of the mirror. In order to investigate the participant's arousal level, EDA peak quantity was captured during the experience. Our electrodermal activity peak count is a sum of all arousal responses throughout the 2-minute virtual experience. We also asked participants to complete a questionnaire concerning embodiment aspects, and these included self-location, the perceived location of the VR body relative to the physical self, agency, which is the perceived ability to control the virtual body's actions, and body ownership, which is the sense of owning the virtual body as one owns their physical body. Additionally, we collected enjoyment generally. Participants first completed a demographic survey and signed a consent form upon arriving at the lab. Next, a GSR sensor was attached to their non-dominant hand. 2 HTC Vive trackers were placed on the participants' feet, and 1 Vive tracker was positioned at the center of the back. Participants were given Vive controllers to use for hand tracking and wore the head-mounted display for head tracking. Eye tracking calibration was completed using the Vive Pro Eye HMD before the virtual experience was started. Once participants indicated that they were ready to begin, the researcher began the EDA recording and started the VR application, which automatically began eye fixation data collection. After the VR experience was finished, which lasted 2 minutes, the researcher ended the VR application and stopped the GSR recording. The participant then removed the HMD and completed the questionnaire. The virtual room used in the experiment was created with Unity 3D. The room was pretty plain so it would not distract attention away from the self-avatar body. The mirror was placed directly in front of participants so that the full self-avatar body could be seen. For participants in the no mirror dimension, a generic painting of the same size stood in place of the mirror. The characters used for self-avatars were downloaded from Adobe Mixamo and Fuse. We used Final IK with the Vive trackers and controllers in order to allow participants the ability to control their limbs. Before the experiment began, the researcher informed participants that they could move the self-avatar body how they would like to do so in the virtual environment. Participants were instructed to stand in the center of the room without walking within the space so that all participants could experience the environment from the same position in the room. For our results, we used two-way ANOVAs to explore main and interaction effects between body and mirror factors. We also used a three-way ANOVA to explore interaction effects between body, mirror, and gender as an additional analysis. The eye fixations we captured were fixation length, fixation count, and time to fixation. For self-fixation count, which is again the number of fixations on the self-avatar body, we did not find any interaction effects or main effect of body, but we confirmed a main effect of mirror on self-fixation count. Participants in the mirror dimension looked significantly less times at their self-avatars than participants in the no mirror dimension. Similarly, for self-fixation length, or the total time the self-avatar was looked at, we found that participants in the mirror dimension looked significantly less at their self-avatars than participants in the no mirror dimension. And again, no main effect of body or interaction between body and mirror was found for self-fixation length. These results confirm that participants who had the mirror in the VR environment did look more at their body through the mirror, while participants who did not have the mirror in the environment looked more at their actual first-person representation of that self-avatar. We also investigated time to self-fixation, so the amount of time that passed before the participant first looked at their self-avatar, and we found a significant main effect of body. We found that participants given a zombie self-avatar looked significantly sooner at their self-avatar than participants who were given a mannequin self-avatar. We also wanted to confirm that the mirror in the mirror dimension was looked at significantly more so than the painting, which would indicate that participants in the mirror dimension did in fact look at the mirror rather than simply looking forward. We also looked at how soon participants looked at the mirror and how soon they looked at the painting. And because participants in the mirror dimension looked at the mirror both significantly longer and more times and sooner than those with the no mirror dimension looked at the painting, we were able to confirm that the mirror truly was looked at by participants. For arousal, we looked at total arousal responses throughout the 2-minute experience. Here we found a main effect of body, in that participants with the zombie self-avatar had significantly more arousal responses than participants with the mannequin self-avatar. For our self-reported data, we used 7-point Likert scales, and we had 11 items in total. We looked at sense of embodiment and enjoyment with our questionnaire. As you can see here, we determined no significant differences in self-reported data with either interaction or main effects. But one somewhat surprising result is that we determined no main effect of mirror on body ownership. And this is surprising because mirrors are used in many embodiment studies, and they are often found to be very important for embodiment, but in our case it did not make a difference in terms of body ownership. Concerning gender, we found a main effect of gender on agency, with females reporting higher agency than males. And this is interesting, considering that there were no tasks in the environment whatsoever. We also looked at eye fixations on gender and determined an interaction effect between body and gender with both self-fixation length and self-fixation count. We found that male participants with zombie self-avatars look significantly longer and more times at their self-avatars than male participants with mannequin self-avatars. We also explored correlations between our objective and subjective data, only finding 2 weak negative correlations between self-fixation count and the self-location aspect of embodiment, and between time to self-fixation and body ownership. Our research hypothesis 1 stated that the self-avatar body type would be more influential than the presence of a mirror for eliciting body ownership. Although our results found no differences in body ownership between mirror factors, we also found no differences between self-avatar body types concerning body ownership, and therefore our self-reported results do not support our research hypothesis 1. It is possible that because the mirror was outside the participants' parapersonal space, it was too far away to make any impact on body ownership, which would be in line with previous research. Our results are similar to those of Lugren et al., who reported no significant differences in body ownership between their 3 avatars, which were a human, a robot, and a block man avatar. Also possible is that none of our self-avatars elicited body ownership, as none bore any semblance to the participants. However, we know from previous work that it is possible to elicit body ownership when self-avatars differ from participants. It's possible that by including a customization factor in our future research, we may be better able to understand the role of customization versus similarity in body ownership. Our research hypothesis 2 stated that an increased sense of embodiment will be consistent with increased arousal, as well as decreased eye gaze towards the self-avatar. We found that the body did influence arousal, in that zombies had a higher overall arousal than mannequins. We also found that males with zombie avatars looked more at their self-avatars than males, given mannequin self-avatars. But we did not find differences in self-reported embodiment between zombies and mannequins, so we cannot really know if the difference in arousal or in fixations is related to sense of embodiment. Our research hypothesis 2 could only be considered partially supported when the small correlations are considered. Looking at our correlations, it appears that self-fixation count was negatively correlated with self-location, which is one aspect of embodiment. Additionally, it appeared that time to self-fixation was negatively correlated with body ownership. It's also possible that all participants struggled to feel embodiment due to the low quality of our Vive tracker system. Here is a quote from one participant. "I felt as if the virtual body was a second skin on top of my own, but I didn't think it was my body, more like a huge costume I was wearing." It's possible that all participants felt similarly lower levels of embodiment, and therefore any differences between body ownership could not be detected with our low-quality embodiment system. Our research hypothesis 3 stated that females would look significantly more often and longer at their self-avatars than males. While this is not supported in that gender did not influence any self-fixations, we did find that females reported more agency than males. We did not expect to find differences in agency, as our virtual environment involved no defined tasks or goals. During the experiment, males appeared to experiment with different positions and rotations of the self-avatar body, more so than females. So it is also possible that an increased exploration of the self-avatar's capabilities led to a decreased sense of agency, as perhaps more self-avatar movement would reveal more motion artifacts. In future studies, it would be important to actually capture movement data in order to determine if agency was influenced by participant movement. Considering the Proteus effect, which suggests that individuals may behave as their self-representation would be expected to behave, it is also possible that females felt that their behaviors matched their self-avatar bodies better than males, and therefore reported higher agency. Although participant gender did not influence self-fixations, providing no support for our research hypothesis 3, our results indicate interesting interactions between body and gender, and an effect of gender on agency, which we hope to continue to explore in future studies. In conclusion, we could not find differences in body ownership through self-reported data, but we discovered differences in arousal, as well as eye fixations between zombie and mannequin self-avatars, which could be indicative of differences in body ownership. We determined potential relationships between eye fixations and aspects of embodiment, such as self-location and body ownership, which could be worth pursuing in future studies that have a larger sample size and that have more of an equal proportion of male to female participants. We also determined that females reported significantly higher agency than males, suggesting that a more complex relationship between gender and agency in low-budget embodiment applications might exist. In summary, next steps for future research include a deeper investigation of the influence of both mere participant proximity and self-avatar realism on body ownership. A more focused examination of self-fixation count, duration, and timing for increasing sense of embodiment could be useful as well. Additionally, it could be useful to look at the influence of customization versus the influence of self-similarity for body ownership. And lastly, we may want to explore the role of context for agency. Our study provided objective data from electrodermal activity and eye fixations in an attempt to better understand how consumers experience VR embodiment using the low-budget motion sensing equipment and different-looking self-avatars which are available to them. While we could not clearly determine differences in body ownership, it is our hope that our findings may contribute to low-budget VR embodiment applications for consumers. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us at the email specified in our paper, and thank you very much for your attention.